Alright, tonight's video for you to watch for class tomorrow is video 1.2 in our first unit on Introduction to Biology. It's called Classification of Life. And with this video, I have a couple of objectives for you to come into class tomorrow. One is you'll be able to explain how organisms are organized on a phylogenetic tree. And the second is that you'll be able to provide an example of why organizing species on physical attributes is not effective. As a reminder for our notes, the note guides are made available online along with this video at the website for Biology with Me. And you have a couple options on how you want to complete them. You can complete them in Google Classroom, you could print out the note guide, or you can copy it into your notebook if you prefer to do it that way. If you have any questions, please email me or bring your questions to class. Okay, so we're going to start this video lesson on a person who is Caroline Linné, also known as Carl Linnaeus. And Carl Linnaeus was a Swedish botanist, and he came up with this idea of naming species using a binary naming system. So he gave them a genus and a species name. And Linnaeus was doing this in 1735, where he was classifying both plants and animals. In our modern classification system now, we have three domains to help organize things, and those are the bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes. Granted, Linnaeus was alive and classifying species way before Darwin came into the picture, but at the time Linnaeus did not believe in the idea of evolution. So everything that was already here was not evolved from a previous organism. Okay, so that is how he went through organizing his species. So to give you an idea of what a phylogenetic tree is phylogenetic trees are organized around the species being the individual organisms. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. So species are the individual organisms, and as we go further back, what we get is we get the common ancestors for those species. So, for example, Pantheris pardus is part of the panther genus, and it's part of the Felidae family, and eventually the Carnivora order, and we can keep going back from there. All species names are given in Latin, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Now, our goal with these trees is that we want what is referred to as monophyletic grouping and naming. And so what we want is we want one phylum and one species for each organism, okay? And so every organism on it has to evolve from the previous ancestor. And this system uses Darwin's idea of natural selection and evolution. Now, Linnaeus, when he was doing his naming of species, he had a problem. All he was using physical attributes, okay, and so how the organism looked. And so I have a couple examples here to demonstrate how this is not a good system. The first is the two plants here. So we have let's try that again. So we have Astrophytum asterius, and we have Euphorbia obesa. And so both of these are very similar in looks, but they are from two different phylums, and so they're not very closely related. It's what's referred to as convergent evolution. And that means that species that are not closely related can have a similar physical appearance because they have evolved to fulfill a certain need. Okay, so another example of that is that of bats here. Okay, and so with bats, they are mammals, and so they have a wing though, and that is a similar structure to that of a bird. Okay, but bats and birds are not very closely related at all. And so bats are more closely related to us than they are the birds. Okay, but both of them have wings that have evolved for a certain evolutionary need. Today, with our modern phylogenetic trees, what we have that's helping us organize them is we're able to use the DNA of different species on Earth to organize them. Now, the one problem with that is we are still discovering species, and we have species that are going extinct before we get a chance to um, name them and identify them. Now, why is naming so important for biology? So here I have a picture of a mountain lion, and so that's its common name, but mountain lion is also goes by 40 different names depending on where you are. All right, and so it's really important that we use a scientific name for mountain lions, and we're going to talk about them more on the upcoming slide. Okay, so the proper classification system for biological species is to go from life, which is includes all life, down to domains, and we already identified that those include bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes. And then we get into kingdoms, and so we'll talk more about that. Then phylums, then classes, then orders, then family, then genus and species. And as we go down this organization system, we eventually narrow it down to a specific animal or plant based on its genus and species names. Okay, so these are what we want to provide for our mountain lion here. So one way that you can remember the order of these systems is the acronym. Okay, so we have D, K, P, C, O, F, G, and S, and that stands for Dumb King Philip came over from German soil. So if you have a hard time remembering the order, Dumb King Philip came over from German soil. Now, let's go ahead and name our mountain lion here and get its actual name. So it is part of Eukarya. Okay, and we'll talk more about Eukarya here soon enough. And it is part of the animal kingdom, also known as Animalia, because we're dealing with Latin. And the phylum is Chordata, and Chordata are your animals that have a spinal cord, chordates, all right? And its specific class is Mammalia. And its order is going to be Carnivora. And then family is going to be Felidae, and its genus is going to be Puma, and its species is Concolor. Alright, so the proper name for mountain lion out of all this is going to be Puma concolor. And this is so that scientists around the world can properly identify the same organism. So it's also sometimes shown as P concolor also. All right, and that's proper too. Usually this is in italics. All right, so our last slide here to finish this up for tonight to give you an overview is the modern phylogenetic tree. And so we've got bacteria, archaea, and eukaryota. And we will be talking about this more in class on Tuesday and using it to identify some different organisms. So come to class, have the notes done, bring your questions and be ready to learn. Thank you.